So we've all been in that place where we've made a deal with God. And most of the time it's on a Saturday night. This at least was when we were kids. We would go to a party. We would maybe not be feeling that great. And we would make a deal with God. God, if you'll get me out of this situation that I got myself into, that I made a bad decision, that I deliberately, went this way. If you'll get me out of this situation, then I'll do blank forever. You guys could fill in the blanks. If you will get me out of this blank, I will do blank forever. And this is the way that most of us deal with God. And then, if he brings it back to us and he delivers on his side of the deal, most of the time we're like, okay, cool, I'll do what I said I was going to do, but I'll do it for a short amount of time. Well, I learned a valuable principle from my pops, and I didn't want to listen to it all the time when I was a kid. And he would call it casting your cares or a prayer list. And this was simply writing down every single thing that was on my heart and the thing that I desired, the thing that I was challenged with. And then he would ask me to date it. And then he would ask me to leave a little bit of room to be able to write next to it later on after I reviewed this, years or weeks or months later, to add 2 initials that would change my life. It was CW, complied with. And I watched my pops not only tell me to do this, but I watched him do it every single day. He would wake up and somebody would call him and they would ask for prayer on a certain thing, and he would write it down on his prayer list, and then he would date it. And then he would review that prayer list the next day, and he would be reviewing prayers from months before, and they would have a little CW next to it. And what I realized was this was not to remind God of all of the prayer requests that my dad had, but to remind my pops of all of the things that he asked for that God complied with. And that's exactly where Proverbs 1 is going today, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And my pops taught me this principle, and it was simply to wet the soil so the fire would never happen. And imagine if we took and we started casting all our cares before they became the fires, and we became the professional, person that was able to put out all fires in our businesses, our lives, our relationships, everywhere. And we simply wet the soil. And how can we wet the soil? By casting our cares, dating them, and then reviewing them back to help to remind us that God complied with all of the things that we freely gave him. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Oh man, let me go to this one here. Yeah, there we go. Technology works until it doesn't. And I want to thank every single one of you guys for tuning in. This is Inchstones, and we're going to go rapid fire today. And it's all about wetting the soil. And this was a big thing that I found in business. I became a person early on that would constantly put out fires. I would run around, I'd put out this fire, I'd put out that fire, I'd put out this fire. And I almost used it as a badge of honor until I started to realize, as my pop would help me with a little bit of wisdom, was, son, if you don't want to have to put out fires all the time, then why don't you just wet the soil? And so the way that we could wet the soil is by casting our cares and, taking our prayer list and taking it to that next level. We did it yesterday with our men's group, and it just only took 3 minutes. It took 3 minutes just to cast our cares, just to write down the things that were on our heart, but make sure that we date them and we leave a little bit of room. So that way when God complies with them, when he comes back and he complies with them, then the story that we give to every single person is not, oh, it came out of the blue. I don't understand how this, it was a mirror. It was all, no. We were able to ask him, he delivered, and then we give him credit. And then we tell all the people that we come in contact with about how he did it as opposed to we did it. And that's, it's an amazing thing, because I was telling my buddy yesterday, my friend Kevin, I said, he's going to bless you. Like my friend Kevin is in a season. He's going to come into it right now, that he's going to get blessed tremendously. But what God has been dealing with him on is that he wants to make sure that when he starts to see that blessing, and when he starts to see all that abundance in his life, that Kevin will not beat his chest and say, this is the way I do it, that he would just turn around and say, thank you, God. And then he would be, his testimony would be even stronger. So in Proverbs 1, which was yesterday, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, God shows how you could wet the soil in all areas of your life, and that's personal, professional, spiritual, and financial. In verse 1 through 7, when you're tuned into the right station, you will receive wisdom, understanding, insight, prudence, honor, discretion, discernment, and instruction. And imagine if you could tune into a station like that. And this is what God was saying in Proverbs 1, and just kind of setting up the tone for all of the Proverbs, the 31 Proverbs in the book. There's 31 days in a month, and you could do the corresponding one for the corresponding day. When you're tuned into the right station, how do we know it's the right station? Because it's the one who made us, right? And so when we're tuned into that right station, it'll give us wisdom, understanding, insight, prudence, honor, discretion, discernment, and instruction. So let's go. Let's test the right station. If it's not giving you wisdom, understanding, insight, prudence, honor, discretion, discernment, and instruction, then maybe it's not the right station to be tuned into. In verse 8 and 9, it says this: listen, fill up, and guard your heart. Listen, fill up, and guard your heart. But we have to open our ears to be able to listen. You hear this all the time. You got 2 ears, you got 1 mouth. We listen as twice as much as what we speak. And so if we start to listen and then we fill that up, right? We fill up our heart. And then he says to simply guard our heart, because people are going to want to come in and they're going to want to add little things to it that aren't going to have wisdom, understanding, insight, prudence, honor, discretion, discernment, and instruction. So listen, fill up, and guard your heart. In verse 10 through 16 of Proverbs 1, there will be silly people saying silly things, pay them no mind. There will be silly people saying silly things, pay them no mind. Silly people say silly things. Silly people say silly things and do silly things, but pay them no mind. In verse 17 through 19, it just encourages us. If you listen to silly people, it will only hurt you. It won't hurt them, because they're already silly. And I think of that word with my mom. My mom used that word all the time, and she would just, she would say, don't be silly, don't be silly, don't be silly. But watch this. If you listen to silly people, it will only hurt you. It won't hurt them. They could say all the silly things that they want, but it'll only hurt you if you listen. In verse 20 through 21, wisdom is available and undefeated. Wisdom comes from the fear of God. The fear of God is nothing more than the respect of God. And to respect him, just spend a little bit of time with him. See his words, his actions. When they're in line, which they always will be, then you'll have respect for him. When you have respect for him, then he'll give you wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge. Then he'll bring knowledge into your life because you know how to use it. He'll bring understanding. He'll bring insight. He'll bring discernment. He'll bring discretion. He'll bring strength. And he'll bring discipline. Bang, 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 right? In verse 22 through 32, silliness is not the answer. It won't end well, and you will end up throwing a Hail Mary. Now, we talked about a Hail Mary earlier. Oh, God, if you'll do this, then I'll do this. If you get me out of this, then I'll do all these things. That's a Hail Mary, right? We're throwing that Hail Mary hoping, oh my gosh, I hope it works out. Well, watch this. Silliness is not the answer. It won't end well, and you will end up throwing a Hail Mary. If you do silly things, you'll get to a point where you have to say, God, if you'll get me out of this, then I'll do this. And you know, and I know, and we all know that you won't keep doing it. Oh, God, if you get me out of this, then I'll, honor you all the days of my life. No, you won't. No, you won't. Stop throwing the Hail Marys and start wetting the soil so you don't have to get in this situation where you have to throw the Hail Mary. In verse 33, it brings it all back into being. Listen up, read it, write it, and cast your cares on the one who could do something, and then give him the credit. This is how you wet the soil. See, the greatest inheritance that I ever got from my pops was that he left me his notebooks. And actually there's hundreds of them down in our garage here at the studio. And they were filled with everything that I brought to him and that I was concerned about. Every single phone call, every time that I reached out to him, I had a prayer request or I was just worried about something, I was stressed about something, he would write it down and then he would date it. And it's amazing because I'm living a life, as I read through those notebooks, I'm living a life that has a bunch of CWs complied with all the way through because my dad was willing to pray about those things, cast those cares, not take them on himself, but to give them to God every single day and wet the soil. And I'm a product of that. And I thank my pops at the highest level. So that's been Proverbs 1, wet the soil. My question to you here is, where are the fires happening in your life? Are they personal? Are they professional? Are they spiritual? Are they financial? And then I would ask you, as opposed to becoming so professional at putting out fires, simply wet the soil, cast your cares, take 3 minutes today, write the cares down, date them, and leave a little bit of space so you can add that CW complied with as you go, because God will answer those prayers. So my name is Kelly Cardenas. This has been Inchstones. Make sure you you subscribe, you do a comment, a review. Buy the book, The Vibe. It's on Amazon. The link is there. Buy Bling Serum, all the ladies and the men, moisture, strength, and shine, and it smells like vacation. You will absolutely love it. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised.